been a bit of a development. This bulge isn't as pronounced as it was. I think I said at some point I was going to put another plate underneath this. Well, I didn't, because I didn't think it would need it, but obviously it does. So what I'm going to do is weld another plate inside there, a plate of 10mm. No, probably 6mm, because I'm going to weld some fins on top of that, probably about an inch apart, a row of fins, to further extract the heat away from the top, get more heat out of the exchanger, in a nutshell. I'll show you the riser now. That's how it's looking after its first big burn. It's okay. Some more light on this. That's better. Well, you can see down into the riser. The riser's still intact. And I said a massive burn in it the other day, just pushing it to the limit, see what would happen, see if I could crack it. Didn't crack it. Looks good. There's a bit of a lump missing off the top there. You can just see it. I did that when I was fitting the riser tube. Yeah, I did that. I caught it on the side as it's damned heavy, and I had to drop it in from the top, you know. So that's what happened. Yeah, everything's okay in there. You can see there where I put a bit of insulation, that's a ceramic wool insulation around the bottom of the riser tube, just to retain a bit of heat, extra heat in there. Where there's a little metal plate, just a thin metal plate, a bit of 1/2mm steel plate over the top of that. Yeah, I did say I welded some plates underneath the firebox. You can just see them there, a row of plates. You can just see that row of plates under there now, and that was a bandsaw blade, a big industrial bandsaw blade, and I just welded them on in rows to further preheat the air. I'm going to replace the gasket, as said, because this 10mm, it's not quite making a seal there. So I'm going to take all this 10mm stuff off, and I've got some slightly heavier stuff which is more compressible. You can see the difference there in the diameter. The problem with that was it didn't compress enough, and that stuff, you can see the amount of compression it'll take, so get a better seal around that. Into the riser tube, everything looks good in there. Firebox looks good. There's no damage on the firebox at all. What I've also done, insulated the firebox. It's not a very nice job because it's Christmas and I couldn't get anywhere to get out for any insulation. So all this stuff is bits and pieces of various ceramic boards and kiln brick that I've just cut up and cobbled together, and I've just sort of wiped them with high temperature sealant, 1600 degree sealant, and it'll hold up, probably last for a couple of weeks, that, till I can get some proper board and do it, you know, make a nice job of it, do it properly. Right, what I'm further going to do since burning this, I've learnt quite a few things actually. So what I'm further going to do is I am going to insulate this side and this side of the firebox, because I'm losing heat from that side and that side, and I want that heat to go into the firebox. See, I was fighting with a couple of thoughts in my head when I built this firebox. I wanted to get as much heat into the incoming air as I could. So I thought insulating the inside would be counterproductive. I wanted the heat in the metal to preheat the air. But fighting with that was the thought that, you know, I'm going to kill the inside of the firebox. It's only 6mm steel. So over time it's just going to distort and it's going to destroy it, the fire, the heat. So my intention was always to insulate the bottom of the firebox. Now since I've insulated the firebox and I've seen the benefits that gives, I've insulated it right to the top, because originally I just had a couple of panels down at the bottom just to keep a bit of heat in the bottom, you know, to cause gasification. That was my purpose. But since I've put more insulation into the firebox, you know, I've come to understand that it takes a while for the insulation to heat up in the firebox, but it, you know, nothing is going to stop heat. So eventually the heat penetrates through the insulation and to the outer wall of the firebox. It's not as intense as it would be without the insulation, but you know, there's still an intense amount of heat there. And as soon then I realised what was going on. The air coming in, the air coming into the firebox was very, very hot once the insulation had heated up, and it was transferring its heat to the walls of the firebox. So the preheated air was coming in very hot, and it was actually causing gasification of the timber as it passed over it. Now I'm losing heat from this side. I wasn't going to insulate that because I thought, well, it's free heat, you know, it's heat that's coming into the shop. But by insulating that, the air will be even hotter, because I'm losing heat off this wall, whereas if it was insulated, the heat would be coming in here, a greater amount of heat. You might think, well, you know, you're losing heat into the shop, as I did, but what the net gain of all this is, it means you can pass less air through the system. Because the wood is gasifying, you're getting a tremendous amount of heat from the timber, from the gases in the timber, and the timber's burning slowly. So you're moving air slower through the system. Because the air's moving slower through the firebox, it's getting even hotter because it's in there for longer. You're not blasting heat through the riser tube, so you're not, the movement through the system is slightly slower, so you're getting more heat out of everything. You're not throwing it out the chimney. It's been quite interesting to learn all this with this stove. The readings I got off the flue, I took some readings the other day, and I've now realised that the radiant heat coming off the stove is heating this section of the flue before it goes out the roof. Also, the back of this exchanger is there's about an 1/8 of an inch gap, about 4 or 5 millimeters behind that plate that holds the flue on. So there's a massive amount of heat being transferred into the flue. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put some ceramic wool behind there to stop that heat penetrating the flue and exiting the top. I'm also going to put a shield around this, a thin metal shield, so the heat hits the shield and doesn't go into the flue. Because when I went outside, because I thought 60 centigrade, that's a lot to be going out the flue compared to the last stove. And when I went outside to measure the flue temperature on, outside, the temperature was 20 C. That's a big difference. I know it will be a bit colder being outside, but as yet I can't get an accurate measurement of flue temperature or gases going out the flue. So doing that shielding will give me a better idea of the temperatures going out. So that's what I'm going to do now. Burn wise, yesterday, as I say, I really belted a load of heat through it. I filled the firebox up twice and I just opened the whole thing up and let it burn. That's when the top of the exchanger started to bulge. It was quite alarming to see it. Tink, 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 tink. As the metal was expanding. And as I say, the bulge on the top, it got to about 1 inch. The varnish on this side of the bench was I could smell something, and I realised it was the varnish on this side of the bench that was starting to blister and bubble. So I thought, to save any damage, I shut the air down, and that's when I realised the stove started getting hotter. And that's what brought me to the conclusion about the air moving through slower. Also, what happens with this cast riser, it's stored up a huge amount of heat, the cast riser, as opposed to a stainless steel riser. And the casting itself, it must be so hot, that casting. So as you're moving air now slower through the system, this actual casting starts to release heat into the exchanger itself, because you're not sucking that heat through the system and out the flue. The heat's staying in there longer. So the heat starts venting out of the exchanger. And now I've learnt all that I'm going to weld fins alongside of the exchanger as well. Just some steel bars, similar to, I've seen this on another rocket stove on YouTube somewhere, where the guy has welded some kind of, like fins. It's not a good example because it's a piece of angle iron, but just some flat bar similar to that, just arranged in rows all the way around the outside of the stove, probably about 3 inches wide, and they will further drag heat from the exchanger when I can get it down to that low burning setting. When that gasification kicks off, just extracts so much heat from the wood, it's incredible. Right guys, I think that's it for now. I think I've covered everything I wanted to say. Yeah, I'll get these changes done, and then we'll have another light up, another fire up, see how it goes. Oh, we'll have a look at the old rocket stove actually. Job 1, new rope on, done. Well, I've done all the things I needed to do, and that fire rope this time is sealed perfectly. Can't see a whisker of flame or light coming from the back of that box. So job done. What I've also done, rather than weld a thicker steel plate inside of that firebox lid, inside of the riser lid, what I did, I just got an old saw blade and I put 4 little legs on it, and I welded it about about 3/4 of an inch below the top of the exchanger. And the purpose of that really was to stop the heat going directly onto the lid, but also to reduce the gap above the riser, because I had it set about 3 inches I think. So I wanted to drop that down a little bit, because if by doing that, I thought maybe it will throw the heat more towards the sides and less straight into the top, which it has done. So now the sides of the exchanger are exactly the same temperature as the top, which I'm quite pleased about. What I'm doing now, it's been burning probably for about an hour, and like a sado I've just been sat here watching it, and what's happening now is gasification. Oh, I put that ceramic blanket round to stop the heat escaping out the sides of the firebox. You know, to get that heat back into the firebox to preheat that air. And what's happening now is the wood is actually gasifying inside the firebox. You can just see now. And the temperature's been steady on this stove now for about 20 minutes. And there's 3 logs in it, 3 small logs, 6-7 inches long and about 3 inches around. And you can see they're still there. They're not physically on fire, but the gases that are coming off them are burning. So we've now got a gasifying rocket stove and it's cool because the heat is incredible. I've choked the fire down probably about 2/3. I've reduced the primary air by about 2/3, and the secondary air is on full bore. So you got 30 mil volume of secondary air going into the riser, and probably I'd say 3 square inches of primary air going in, and that's the causal effect of it. I can't stay here too long because I'm worried about my camera, but that's what's happening in there. It's absolute magic. I don't just love watching fire. Yeah, so I'm going to see how long this burns now. I put the logs in about 30 minutes ago, something like that, 20-30 minutes ago. So I'm just gonna leave it now. Go in, make my tea, then come out. I would think at least 2 hours, maybe 3 hours on them 3 pieces of wood. I'm gonna go and return later. The workshop's now at 23 centigrade. And if we started off at 7 centigrade, well, the temperature's lifted quite a bit and it's building all the time. It's very cold out tonight. There's ice on the roof of this building because I went out because it's giving off quite a bit of condensation, the flue. Because this wood, I've got no dry wood, that's the trouble, and this wood is very damp. Well, it was very damp when I put it in. Again, there was moisture sizzling and bubbling out the end grain. So as a result, a lot of the moisture was coming out of the flue, and I went up onto the roof, slipped on the ice because it's pitch black outside, and stuck my face into the steam plume coming out of the flue. And you know, it hardly smells of anything at all, so there's total combustion going on inside this thing. There's a very, very, very faint whiff of sort of damp wood, if you like. It's not unpleasant, you can just about, and I've got a good sense of smell, and it's you know, it's not unpleasant, and it's certainly not noxious, and the steam isn't hot. I put my hand into the flue and it's quite pleasant in there, you know. So anyway, I'm prattling on long enough. I'm going to go in now. I'm going to leave the fire, come back in 2 hours, film it, and see how it's done, and check the temperature of the shop. Well, I'm back. Just a quick note because I forgot to give you the temperatures of the stove. There's not much point me holding this up to the camera because the light's gone on it. 259 degrees centigrade. Can you see that now? Yes? Oh yeah, I can see it. 260 degrees centigrade. That's from the sides of the exchanger. The top is slightly higher actually. It's 290 centigrade. See it there. And the time is pitching 6:23 PM. on Saturday. Well, let's come back in 2 hours 6. What's that? 6, 8:24. Come back at 8:24 and have a look. I'm really going this time. I'm back, and the time we've got now is 8:15, and it's still just about going. It's nice and warm in the shop. It is 18.9 degrees centigrade. The stove's still 105C. Actually warmer on the sides of the exchanger than the top now. 105C. Firebox temperature is 250C inside. 264 degrees. Oh, sorry. 264 degrees. See? And there's still a little bit of wood left. Just open that door. We see this better in darkness, really. But yeah, you can see wood that's left there. Oh, we've still got some energy going. It'll probably burn for another hour, that, actually. Glowing coals. Now as it's gotten a bit more air, it's firing up again. I'm just going to put a couple more logs in and leave it for the night now. And they're the size of the logs, by the way, I'd put on before. 3 logs like that. Well, they were splinters. They were round, obviously not chopped in half, but yeah, 3 logs like that. I'll open up the primary air now and get some burn going. There we go. So, in conclusion, the stove is fantastic. If I was going to change anything, I would probably find a better way of preheating the air. Can't think of one off the top of my head right now, but I'm sure I will. Yeah, I'd think of preheating the air even hotter, and I would think the way to do that is to bring it through the exchanger, which isn't difficult to do really, because you could set a couple of panels on the inside of the exchanger and bring the drafting through straight from the back through the side of the firebox up and in. You could do that. That would be easy enough to do. But that's about all I would change. This this coating, I've got this ceramic wool I've put around the outside of the firebox there. That's going to be a permanent feature. I'm going to keep that, so I'll just put a metal sleeve around that to hold it in place. You are losing heat from the top of your glass, because that's the only part of the firebox now that's not insulated, so you're losing quite a bit of heat from that, but you know, it's nice to see the fire, isn't it? You see what's going on inside. It's a bit boring looking at just a metal box, but you could, I suppose, by making the glass smaller, you're not going to lose as much heat. So when I come to make the door for this thing, I may reduce the actual size of the glass into a slit and then heavily insulate the door so it's not losing as much heat through the top of the firebox, which I think that will only improve the stove. So for now guys, that's it. Stove done. I've got 1 log there drying. That'll probably do me till for tomorrow. Yeah, and I'll get a bit of thinner steel, 1mm steel next week and make a little box for around the outside of that. But that's it for now. Well, thanks for watching, fellas, and I will see you in the next vid. Please subscribe and like and share the video if you like it. Bye for now.